Hello everyone and welcome to RINI. In this special episode, we'll be talking with Tobias Rüttershoff, Director of Conrad-Adenauer-Stiftung in Albania, a solid partner and friend of National Youth Congress of Albania. As you know, in this special editions of RINI, we gather with our stakeholders and friends to discuss and reflect about what being young means and how we perceive youth empowerment and participation in Albania. So without further ado, I'd like to start our discussion and communication on youth empowerment with Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. And firstly, we would like to know a bit of your background. How did you come to Albania? What is your involvement with Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung? And how do you see your involvement with youth and what motivates you the most in your job?
Well, welcome Dea, Mirdita, to our office here in the heart of Tirana. I'm very pleased that you're here, of course, for a long-term collaboration with Nick. As you said, I'm director of Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung here. I've been here in Albania for nearly 4 years now. Before that, I would still consider myself as young at 36, so maybe just out of the youth stage. I studied politics, was always interested in politics and political scene. I entered a political party, the CDU in Germany, when I was 16, because I was unhappy at the time with how things ran in Germany. So I wanted to change things and became on the local level active in politics. And then I kind of went on to study politics. When I then became much more interested in international relations, working abroad, I spent some time in America in high school, and then I did my studies both in Germany and the UK before coming back to Germany. And then the question was, okay, what do you do? What do you start? I just finished my PhD, and I then came to CAS because I've always been a CAS scholar. So since 2007, I was a scholarship recipient from Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. And when they had a job opening, I applied, and that's where I came as an employee to CAS. And then I worked 4 years in the headquarters in Berlin, doing various tasks, all related with the international affairs of CAS. And in 2019, I moved here to Albania. And here I am now. And of course, as CAS, we have this very broad portfolio of stuff that we do in Albania. We are very active in political cooperation, dealing with the past, memory, justice reform, and other things. But one of our very, very important aspects, and that's, I would say, a cross-cutting issue across different themes that we work on, is the youth. So youth empowerment, working with young people in politics, but also on the, let's say, bipartisan sphere to support them, because I believe, and we have the strong conviction, that the youth is the future of Albania, and that is something that we need to actively support, also in light of EU integration.
And what caught my attention while you were presenting your background and involvement with your work here in Albania was the phrase, getting things changed and getting things done. How do you perceive youth involvement and youth empowerment, and actually youth being actively participating in political sphere to change things?
Well, I believe it's very important. And if you look at, if you go around in Tirana especially, but even in other villages, yes, of course, you see some older people, but it's statistically proven that, there is a large amount of youth in Albania that you see everywhere. And also when we have the activities, the youth are coming, they're active, and we have many events, both in the political arena, but also in other fields where, let's say, youth are hungry, they want to know things, they want to change things, and they want to be empowered, as you say, and take on the future of this country. And that's, despite all the issues with the migration that we have, it's important that we give youth a voice, that we give youth a chance to change something in this country, to be involved in politics, and also, demand with their voice what is of interest to them, because that is, I believe, a core of a working democracy, that you have all participants, all levels of society being involved, and youth is a very important aspect of that.
And you mentioned that it's nearly 5 years that you live here in Albania. But
4 years. 4 years.
Okay. But you do not only live here and work here, you also experience and witness Albania's situation in terms of political, cultural and social developments. what do you see as a potential area that needs more investment in Albania, and what do you see as those gaps that need to be fulfilled for a more democratic and healthy society to exist?
Well, first of all, I mean, I would like to say that, I've really enjoyed so far being here in Albania because it's a great country. And despite COVID, in the last 4 years, I've really traveled all over the country from north, from Topoja, Valbona, down to the south, to Konispol, and in the east, Korça, Durrës. So I've been several times to all the cities. I've been to smaller villages and really had the pleasure of talking to a lot of different people, and it's great to be here. To great Albanian hospitality, the food is too great a bit, but you have everything. You have the mountains, you have the seaside. So I believe there's really a lot of potential for Albania, for not just tourism, but comprehensively beyond. And of course, youth also plays an important aspect in that, because you are the future of this country, and you need to take on sort of the tasks that are given, and you need to create a voice of how you want to create Albania in the future. And that is something that I think we need to actively work on. We need to, of course, migration will always be there, but we need to maybe see how we can improve this migration thing, that people are coming back to this country. Also bring back their experiences that they gained abroad. As you know, Albania was a closed society for many decades under communism, but we have had 30 years of opening now, and people have been able to travel, people have been able to emigrate, and as we know, Albanians always keep this relationship to their home country. But I would hope that people do come back in the future to the country to change something here, to improve society, to improve the situations. And then I believe Albania will definitely have all the chances that Italy has, that Greece has, that Croatia has, which have very similar positionings, geographical advantages. And I think that Albania is surely capable of that as well.
And you rightly mentioned that there are many years that have passed and Albania has been progressing, and there are many opportunities and fields of engagement for young people to be an active part in it. But from your personal engagement and constant work with young people, also through the cooperation we have with the National Youth Congress, do you see young people active enough or hungry enough for change? Or do you see them mostly demotivated and lacking the willingness to engage?
I think I see both sides. I see young people who are very active, who are coming to our events, who are in, yes, the political parties who are active, who turn out, and very often we have very good discussions and very open discussions. It's not just following even the party lines, but there is demand for change even within the parties, and definitely outside the parties. So that is something that I see, and the potential is there. The youth is well educated, they're well connected to the outside, and of course all the influences. Everyone has a smartphone now, so I believe that this generation is the most informed, in centuries or millennia in a way. So I do see, and of course, having more opportunities than their parents. I think that's one side. On the other side, and you're absolutely right. I mean, and we have this issue in this country with mass migration. Too many people are leaving, and I mean, my personal conviction is that it's you're leaving not just because you're poor or you maybe don't have enough money. It's because you lack a vision, or you don't see a vision that politics give you for the future. I think that's the biggest issue. If you're poor, but if you think that your life will improve in, let's say, 10 years or 20 years, and especially for your children, then you will stay in this country. If you don't see this, then you will leave. And this is the problem that we have at the moment, that people, I think, are lacking the political visions that things can improve for the better, which is, really a shame. Because as I said earlier, there is definitely the potential to change this. So it's a bit of both, and I hope we can definitely, especially also through our cooperation and the events that we have, strengthen the role of youth in politics, strengthen the role of youth in society, that not so many people maybe are forced to leave.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tobias, for this input. And building common vision and also making change starts with making also friends and cooperating along the way. So in this part of the interview, I again want to mention the cooperation that National Youth Congress has been having with Conrad-Adenauer-Stiftung in joining forces and investing in innovative programs for young people, such as Rinjve and Rinjve. What has been your stance or your perception of how these programs work, and do you think they are innovative enough, and do you think they attract young people, and is this what young people really look for, new forms of participation and engagement in the democratic life?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had a very great cooperation with the National Youth Congress now over, I mean, even before my time, so 6, 7, 8 years that we've cooperated on different things. And I like that we've really done a broad variety of things together, a broad variety of measures, of events, going from studies, for example, looking at youth participation on the regional level, which we did, I think, 3 years ago. And then, yes, you mentioned Rinon and Rinvote, which I believe were really fantastic ideas that came from NUK, where we were contacted together, of course, with our friends from the Sfidat Stiftung, and we were able to, realize this together, also with Euronews Albania. And when we started, of course, I noticed the hesitation, definitely in politics, and I remember the times when it was very hard to get politicians motivated to go on the show, and, having to make a lot of phone calls. But I think the success of the show really kind of proved itself. And I mean, what I really liked that before the last election, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were the only show that got politicians from both sides into one studio to discuss before the elections and discuss particularly youth issues. And I mean, what we see that there's still a high turnout for the applications every time that when there's a round of applications for a new edition of Rinvote or Rinon. We see that people are still engaged and still motivated to do these kind of things, and yes, to have a voice and to express their voice themselves. And I would hope, that we in the future, of course, will have not just continue our collaboration, but again, come up with new ideas to reach the youth. I mean, unfortunately, I would say, I'm still, Facebook, Instagram is okay, but of course, I'm maybe not the generation TikTok anymore. So, of course, but I'm very open to, new proposals and new ideas from the young generation.
Thank you, Tobias. And when it comes to your lessons learned throughout your personal experience as a young person yourself, what do you think was something that you know now, that you wish you would have known back then, and that it would have maybe changed your youth, or maybe it would have changed your perspective on life, that you can share with our young people?
Well, I think what's important is that you always stand up for yourself, and I know this is not just in Albania, but particularly in Albania, but also in Germany, you follow certain things because it's the party line, let's say, if you're working in a party or an organization even. But I think what's always important, and I tell this to the people now, that you need to realize, okay, we're also representing an interest group here. Of course, you might have other interests as well, but youth itself is one interest, and that is actually, I think, something that's shared across party divides, where you have both, let's say, the Democratic Party, the Socialist Party, the Freedom Party, the young people from these parties. Yes, of course, they have different political views, but there is certainly some issues that you should act as youth together, and that's why it's great that we have the National Youth Congress as an umbrella organization of different, not just political youth wings, but also of other youth organizations, to have a strong voice for the youth, to, let's say, go to the Prime Minister or go to the mayor and mayors and actively ask for representation, actively ask for projects that are interesting to the youth, let's say youth centers, or, I mean, for the younger children, of course, playgrounds, but I guess it's more for meeting rooms. Also in terms of job opportunities, so there's so many things that I think the youth has a genuine interest as a youth to ask for, and that's maybe also my advice to push more for that and to have your strong voice.
So, since we are coming at the end of our interview, we can end it with advice and message from you to young people in Albania, and it is stand up for your rights and be active in politics. And is there anything else that you would like to add and advise young people?
Well, keep your young spirit, basically be engaged, don't be shy to speak up. Look for other like-minded people in the youth to be engaged, and I know it's difficult sometimes with culture, but don't mind to be challenging and asking for your right, because you're the future of this country and this country needs you.
Thank you, Tobias, so much for sharing your time and sharing your inputs and contribution, as well as your experience in Albania, which is very valuable for all our young people to hear and relate to. So thank you so much for this interview. It was a pleasure, and we'll see each other soon in other joint corporations.
Thanks, Dea, for coming, and it's a pleasure to always work with National Youth Congress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for following this interview. We'll see you in the next special edition of RINI.